session of public comments? Okay. Seeing none, hearing none, I'll move on to approval not required, Colony of Wellfleet. I think somebody's trying to talk.
Sorry.
You just have to raise your hand. It's the little button down below, or if we can see you,
Whoa.
so the chair can recognize you.
Yes, hi, Phil Sholomidi, Ryder and Wilcox.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
do you want to make a short, I think we all have a copy of the plot plan. You want to
Yeah.
make a short presentation?
Yes, by all means. Phil
Okay.
Sholomidi with Ryder and Wilcox. Also attending is architect Sibel Asandragul. Before you is an approval not required plan. It's prepared for the Colony of Wellfleet. Owners Mihai and Jeffrey Stephanie. The property is situated on the north side of Chequesset Neck Road and Way 55. It's zoned R1. The property is registered with Land Court. The plan is made for conveyancing purposes. The total parcel is described as existing lot F10 on Land Court Plan 10669 M as in Mary. The approval not required divides existing lot F10 into two lots, lots 86 and 87. Lot 87 contains 126,787 square feet, or 2.91 acres, with 384 linear feet of frontage along Way 55. Lot 86 contains 9,894 feet, and as the plan note states, Lot 86 is not a buildable lot, but is to be combined with the abutting Lot 17 on Land Court Plan 10669Y. And that's the lot that's directly on Chequesset Neck Road with the existing dwelling on it. So basically, again, it's made for conveyancing purposes. We're adding lot 86 to the southerly budding lot 87 of a different plan. This plan has been filed or pre-filed with Land Court, and Land Court has approved it for both content and construction. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
No, I've got one.
Yes, please.
Philip, it's very nice to work with you on a project that's not very contentious.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, no 350 Bradford this time.
Yes.
David, you got any questions?
It's just making a larger lot. I mean, no, I mean, he's got it laid out. I don't see any issues with it. It's, you know, combining an unbuildable lot with an existing structure, so doesn't necessarily approval not required. None.
Any members have any questions?
No.
This is a cottage colony, right?
Yep.
That's correct. With the exception, yes, the property that we are subdividing is the colony. The southerly house on Chequesset Neck is not part of this division and is not part of the colony.
That was always separate, correct, Philip?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
But you're, okay. But you are taking the 9,894 square feet from the existing cottage colony square footage.
That is correct.
And so
Jerry, I don't think that poses any problems with the definition of cottage colony, given the land area and the frontage requirements. It still is a conforming, they're not altering that. Is that your
Yeah,
concern?
that's where I was going, is there was no certification. I was looking, David, for the certification that it was not creating, this division was not creating any zoning bylaw dimensional
Non-conformities, yeah.
nonconformities, and making the assumption that you're going under the premise that because it's a cottage colony and the cottage colony requires 1 acre zoning, that you still have the 1 acre, right?
Yeah, you have 2 acres there. Almost 3.
Right.
Is there a step in the zoning, depending on the number of units in the cottage colony? I don't have a zoning book in front of me. I apologize for that.
Oh, as far as just number of units you're looking for, Alfred?
Yes, my question is if you need A for 1, do you need A plus, or did we just do it as A?
A, you need an acre of area to have a cottage colony, and if you have the acre, you're allowed up to 10 units.
Okay, so subtracting this from it doesn't make it a because of the lot size.
Doesn't make it a nonconformity.
Nope.
My only other question is that the original lot, I believe, was lot 80. What size is that?
The original lot was lot F10. And
I couldn't hear you if you gave me the lot size.
yeah, the lot size, well, it would be, I could do the math.
My question is, I think that should be on the plan.
Well, 80?
Lot 80 should be, because you're adding lot 86 to lot 80, correct?
No,
That's-
we're adding 86 to lot 17,
17, yeah.
and that's a different subdivision. That was a lot created previously. It's standalone. It's not part of what we're dividing tonight.
No, I didn't ask that question. Well, if you look on the assessors map, 17 is still 80. And 87, and 87 is 79. And because in your filing, you're showing off of the assessors map differently than your own map. Because on your map, you're showing this as map 19, lot 79.
Yes.
On the drawing in front of me, unless I'm incorrect, you're showing that as lot 87.
Yes.
So 79 and 87 are the same.
79 and 87, according to the assessor's map, are not the same. And it's somewhat complicated. Let me see if I can guide you through this. The assessor's map includes several parcels, including parcels on the easterly side of Way 55.
Okay,
You can see there.
I'm going to cut you off to save time. I agree with you. My question to you is, in theory, 79 and 87, without this stuff outside of the boundaries, is approximately the same.
Correct.
So if that's correct, my question is only for proper delineation on this, because you're taking your new lot 86, correct?
Yes,
And you're adding that to the old house.
correct.
But the old house doesn't say how big the lot is on it, nor does it say what the combined area is.
And you're
Unless
right.
I've missed that.
It does not. It does not tell what the combined area is,
Nor does it say what size the original lot is.
but we're not subdividing the existing lot.
I didn't say,
That's,
I didn't say you were. My question is, why would that not be noted in this thing to say how big the lot is existing and what its new configuration would be by adding 9,894 square feet?
because it's not part of this division. This is just created to divide lot 79. It's prepared for land court. The land court is interested in what we're subdividing and not what lies outside of that division.
So when this goes to the assessor's office, she's going to have a lot without a delineation on the actual size.
Yeah, which is pretty common. It'll be as the land court accepts the plan. It's already been pre-filed. They've looked at it. We've made adjustments according to their liking. Once they've approved this, the next two lot numbers, according to land court, are number 86 and 87. If the building inspector feels a need to combine those, that would be a separate process that would follow this division plan. Oftentimes they do, the building inspector will not require that. They will accept the fact that there's a plan note that states in the bottom left-hand corner that says that 86 is not a buildable lot, but is to be combined with the abutting lot 17. There's already a plan that shows lot 17. If he's not comfortable with adding the two numbers together, then we can perform a combination plan, an 81, known as an 81X, combining both lots.
I think that's where Alfred's going. In other words,
But this has to be done
creating
first.
lot 86, and if you're keeping two lots, in essence, shouldn't you be showing a perimeter plan showing the additional 9,894 square feet, wiping out the lot number 17 lot lines and making it conform to the new lines, including lot 86?
Understood. And that's certainly something we can do, but this process has to come first. We have to subdivide the existing lot and create the new lot before we can combine them.
Because of land court?
Correct. And as I mentioned before, this has been pre-filed with land court. We've abided to their restrictions. We've made adjustments to the plan. They've asked for certain adjustments, which we've made, and this plan reflects those. But yeah, before we can do any combination of plan of lines, of lots, it's necessary first to subdivide it. And that's what this plan does.
So this is a step in the process, Philip, is what you're saying.
If you feel it's necessary to combine them, if the building inspector feels it's necessary, then we can do that. But again, oftentimes it's known as two separate lots in a land court process.
Well,
If he feels it's necessary to extinguish the line in between because of zoning reasons or whatever, then we can perform the 81X to combine the lots. Or if necessary, the other option is to come back with an A&R combining the lots. But in the past, land court has allowed us to perform the 81X.
okay.
Wouldn't
but
that be
big
cleaner in the long run?
Yeah,
There's one lot.
yeah,
This is chopped up, in my opinion.
yeah, and that's something we can do. But again, that would follow this process. We can't combine them until we make this change.
Alfred,
Yeah.
I think, in essence, they've covered the base and may not have realized it, but if you look to the left-hand bottom corner of this plan, under note,
Yeah, I would have been fine, Jerry, if there was lot sizes on that. Because we're combining a lot that a plan doesn't give a definition of how big it is. I'm not
But we're
saying
not
that
combining them yet. We're not combining the lots yet.
yeah,
just
but you are-
dividing
you're
the lot.
stating, Peter, you're stating on
Yes,
this
you are.
plan as a note that lot 86 is not a buildable lot, but is to be combined with abutting lot 17.
That's
You
correct.
are stating that on the plan.
Correct, yes. And that,
So
Again.
therefore, I believe, to Alfred's point, and my follow-up with it is that we are expecting to see a perimeter plan where
okay,
those two lots joined together as one.
understood. And we can, with that recommendation, we can make that, we can follow up once this is gone through the land court process. And once they subdivide this larger lot into the two, 86 and 87, we can return with an 81X, combining the lots, which will show the areas and the extinguishing basically the interior lot line.
Okay, whoever, and I'll continue if anybody else has got any questions. However,
Yeah,
whoever
I
makes
do.
the motion, yeah, okay, but whoever makes the motion, I would like to see that that note is referenced and that you will be back here to combine those two lots as an approval not required, join the two lots together. I'm not keen on making the building inspector have to do it or the town of
Understood.
Wellfleet assessor. I think
Understood.
the impetus is on
Yeah.
you, since it's noted on this plan, to finish the plan after, and I understand land court. I've done enough with land court to understand you follow their rules, but to finish it,
Okay.
I think I concur with
We need a
Alfred.
happy ending.
Yeah, let's see the
Yes, but
applicant.
Jerry, I'd like
Yes,
to interrupt. If you make a recommendation or a ruling on this, right, as an addendum or anything, it's not binding. We
Well,
have to take
it is binding because he's got a note on the plan that it is to be combined. So he's
I
got to
don't-
follow up on it.
So all right, I get where we're at. Never mind. I understand now. Thank you.
Yeah.
I-
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Phil,
It's-
it-
it-
I have a question.
I do have a quick question.
Wait a minute, Aldo.
Is
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, is an 81X similar or does it do the same function as a perimeter plan?
That's correct.
So you could go either path and accomplish the
Yeah,
same thing, right?
typically on something like this, we would put together an 81X. It would actually show the dash interior lot line and have something to language like former lot line or something of that effect. So you can relate it to what was done previously.
Okay, I see. All right.
Olga?
It looks to me that the current lot is pre-existing non-conforming where the house is.
Correct.
Visually, combined with the other lot, it still doesn't reach the 30,000 square feet. Am I right?
That's
Doesn't have to.
Doesn't have to, yeah.
And is it a pre-existing non-conforming when it's less than 30,000?
You're making it, you're simply making
More
it
conforming.
more non-conforming, less non-conforming. That's all, you're making it less non-conforming. You can
Okay.
add to a non-conforming lot, but you do not have to make it conform when you add any square footage to it.
You just can't subtract from
You
one.
can't make it less than, they couldn't subtract any, but they certainly can add
No.
as they accumulate. If you took, for example, the 40 by 50 lots on Lieutenant's Island, and a neighbor, they only had 10,000 square feet, and a neighbor had one lot, they could add it to it and accumulate any more additional lots in the future. And that's basically what they're doing here.
I guess I'm hung up on the word pre-existing, because once you combine it, is it pre-existing?
It's,
And maybe that
Oh.
doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. It's still
It's less non-conforming.
less non-conforming. It's a non-conforming lot. For some reason, and this goes now to Alfred's point, I can read lot 86 is 9,894 square feet. I can't see where the dimension on lot 17 is, So if I knew that lot 17 had a square footage of 20,000 square feet, I would be able to say, okay, it's got 29. I don't know how much square footage it's got.
Hmm.
And I think to Alfred's point, in the past, on a perimeter plan, we have wanted this kind of information. So when we have this particular discussion, we're knowing exactly when that new perimeter plan comes in, how many square feet are in the new lot. I
But
find
this
it,
isn't a, yeah,
I
this
find
isn't
it,
a perimeter plan, Jerry.
I know, because you have to go through land court, but I do find it somewhat questioning is to, with all the acreage on the cottage colony side, you're adding 9,894 square feet to the existing lot 17. There certainly is enough area, and I don't think that much more, to make it truly to Olga's point, truly conforming 30,000 square foot lot. But I think what they want to do is continue to make this non-conforming to get the protection of a non-conforming lot. So if they have to go back to the Board of Appeals to get a permit to add on to the house, it's still a non-conforming lot. Is that where you're going, Peter?
That was, these lot lines in the area were created with input from the Stefanis regarding where they wanted the limits of the combined property to be. Excuse me. There was
Yeah, I
no
know.
consideration for
We can't
area at the
judge-
time.
We can't judge what their ultimate gain is. Other than that, it certainly was in the jurisdiction of, it's non-buildable, so it's labeled non-buildable.
May I say, Jerry, this
Yeah.
is Sal Asantagro. If I may be able to answer your question.
Okay,
So the reason why we went as far as, the reason why the Stefanis expanded their property to the areas that Phil is showing is they wanted to be able to take the existing garden and include it with the residents where they live. That was the reason.
Okay.
okay, I understand that. But what is, and I think, Peter, you must know just for information, what is the square footage of lot 17?
It's Philip, and
Philip, I'm sorry.
that's okay. Certainly I have that information because it's not part of this division. As we come back with the 81X, the perimeter plan, that will show the total areas. But let me see if I can.
Probably 10,000 square feet. It's in that neighborhood, right?
I had it, we have it, it's actually as part of another project, and I do not have that folder with me now.
Okay, well, we got a meeting. Any other questions? Seeing none, any motion? Yep,
I'll make the motion to approve.
any second?
I'll second it.
We're not approving it, David, aren't we? Stating that it meets the requirements.
You're
Stating that
approving
okay.
that, you're approving that in fact it meets the qualifications for approval not required plan.
Yes, okay. Right language then. That always helps. Okay.
Olga, do you second that?
Yes,
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Think that was unanimous.
think so.
Okay, very
Okay.
good.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Partial lot release on Sam Hollow Road, lots 3 and 6. Let's see, anybody here representing Paul?
Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. It's Tim Brady from East Cape Engineering. Nice to see you all. It's been a while since we've talked. This is simply a request for release for 2 lots in Sam Hollow Road, Laddie's Way subdivision. As you know, we've been submitting periodic reports for this project. At this point in time, the subdivision is basically done. The final coat of paving is planned to be applied in the spring. The slopes need a little bit more tending in order to be finalized, but they are in general shaped the way they're going to be, and their slopes comply with the design plan. The drainage has been installed, the power has been installed, it's nearly complete. So lot 6 is currently either under agreement for sale or very nearly under agreement for sale. And lot 3 may be the next lot that gets conveyed. So that's my story, and I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Any discussion?
How many lots have we signed off on first? Before this?
Just one.
Lot
The
1,
Just the
Lot
one that, yeah.
Thank you.
any other? I would say that there is in the spring, he's got to look at those slopes and really do some more loaming and
Yeah.
seeding.
Yes, exactly right.
Um,
That's
make
what's-
I'd
the
make a
final-
motion for this.
All right.
I mean, I'm cutting them off because you know what, Jerry? If
Yeah,
it
I know.
isn't done, we'll just stomp on it. I
Yep.
said that.
Yep.
So
All
I'll
right,
make a
so-
motion. I'll make the motion to convey out lots 3 and lot 3 and lot 6 for Sam
Lot 3
Hollow
and lot
Road.
6,
Yes,
okay,
on Sam Hollow Road.
yep. Any second?
Second.
Second by David. Mead. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous?
Just one quick question. Once the paperwork is ready, how can we get that paperwork?
Rebecca?
Yeah, you can send it to me once the paperwork is all set.
Rebecca,
No,
you'll
what
just,
he's gonna need, what Tim's gonna need is.
Oh, is
for
a letter,
all
yep.
Planning board members to go into town hall, sign the release. At which point, he could then pick it up and get it recorded.
Okay,
Yeah, then-
I'll be in tomorrow. I can get the letter, everything, and then I'll email everyone when I'll be in. Thursday looks like it's a work from home day because of the snow. So, I'll email everybody what days work for you guys to come in and sign it. And then Tim, if I can just scan it and email it to you, I can do that.
yeah, actually, the form that I submitted, that is the form that the planning board actually signs.
Yes. Oh,
Then-
that's right. I have it.
And then I need the original copies with the signatures on it for recording.
Okay,
there's
so
no-
I will let you know when they've all signed and I have it for you.
Okay, that's fine. There's no particular rush. I just wanted to make sure that's going to work out. And I
Okay.
can pick it up, or Greg can pick it up. Rebecca, you and I can work that out once you've got it with the original signatures on it.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Okay, that's all I need. Thank you all very much.
Rebecca,
Yes.
have we got all of the correct signatures? And have they been sent into land court into the registry?
I need David Rowell and Alfred's.
Okay,
I
so
can-
David Rowell and Alfred, when you sign this release, you've also got to make sure you sign the registry paperwork.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
actually be at the marina tomorrow, Alfred, if you're down there.
Let me know when you're there. I'll come down.
Okay,
You'll be at the marina?
I will, yes.
Well, shoot me a text. I'm going to be in town. I can do that.
Okay,
Excellent.
Cool. Thank you.
sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a nice
All
night.
right, take
Have a
care.
great holiday.
You too.
Thanks.
Next, affordable dwelling unit.
Sharon. There she is.
Sharon?
You're muted, Sharon. You have to unmute yourself.
Hello. So are you waiting for me to talk?
You or whoever else is, I
Okay,
think Elaine is there and I,
okay. Well, I sent you in your packet a further revised ADU, proposed draft ADU bylaw. And we've included the suggestions that Jerry made. And I gave you one form that was tracked that I find hopelessly confusing myself, but it, may make more sense to you. The main changes, the changes that we've made since the last time were, we added a little bit to the purpose and intent of the accessory dwelling unit, really for the general public. We took out the part that says, well, basically we said, we changed where it said that they could be allowed in pre-existing non-conforming. And now under 6.21.2C, we say no accessory dwelling unit shall be allowed in pre-existing non-conforming structures. That was a request that Jerry made, and it makes sense to us. What else did we change? I don't know. Let me go to the tracking form because I don't know that we changed all that much else. That was a big one.
I'd just like to say for future reference, if we had the tracking document, that would be better than a new document.
Well, no,
that's-
you have it. I sent it in your packet. It's just, I'm not very good, with these programs, so I'm not sure that it's more clear, but it is there.
Yes.
I think Beth,
Yeah, no, I see what she's saying is here, but it's not exactly what I meant, but okay.
okay, because the one in total black print,
Yeah, that's all new.
that's all new and
No
clear.
reference to what was.
Yeah, the red is what was.
Right.
Okay,
So I'm not sure what other changes you wanted. It was a little unclear. So we have left in the amnesty piece, and I know there was some question about that, and that might be worth discussing. In my understanding of the amnesty piece is that it means that you have 5 years to come out of the dark side, as it were. But once you do, you have to bring everything up to code. You can't come out and then, so during that time, you're still subject to fines if necessary, or any other kind of penalties, although I know we're not wanting to apply those.
Is that like being a Jets fan, being in the dark?
What?
David.
Is that like being a Jets fan to be coming out of the dark?
Well, you'll have to use your sports analogy on someone else, because it doesn't work on me. Sorry, dude.
right.
But, the idea with the amnesty was to provide a pathway for people to legalize their illegal apartments and bring them up to code. If that's not the understanding of this board, then we need to talk about that and
No, that's
figure
good.
out what is the pathway, I guess.
Don't know on that one yet.
Still open for,
Well,
We tried.
well, if someone has an ADU, and right now, an AADU, I mean, has an illegal apartment and they want to make a AADU, what is their pathway now?
The current bylaw is written, I feel it's deficient to really bring enough people out of the dark side, so to speak. I
if
think there
someone
should be
wanted
more
to-
carrots for that.
Say
Well,
if someone wanted to, if they felt like, oh, it's an insurance liability, which it might be, or I might be subject to penalties, which they might be, if they're just feeling altruistic and they really want it to be out and public, what is their pathway?
They go to the zoning board.
Do they go to
Yeah,
the
go-
building inspector?
No, they
No.
go to the zoning board
They
and
come to
ask
the
for
planning
it.
board?
Why?
The zoning
No.
board.
no.
They go to
yeah,
ZBA?
Alfred's correct, but the only way, okay, first step is this bylaw hasn't passed. So to answer your
Right.
question.
No,
Karen,
I'm talking about AADUs. Right.
No,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. We're talking about an illegal apartment, which is your amnesty.
Yes.
It's not an AADU. It's not an ADU because that hasn't passed yet. And they haven't gone for a permit. It's an illegal
Exactly.
apartment. Okay, the only pathway at the
Yes.
present time is for them to apply, under my understanding, and I know I've got 6 other members who will jump in on me. It's my understanding that the only way they can come out, so to speak, is to apply for an AADU special permit
Mhm.
to the Board of Appeals. And
Okay.
it's the only way.
And that's, okay, but they can do that.
They can do that.
They can-
That's what we were hopeful when we passed the AADU.
Okay.
That those who had
Yeah.
apartments would therefore apply to the Board of Appeals for a special permit under the AADU. If this bylaw passes, they could come out in 2 forms. They could come out with requesting a
Screen is
special
freezing.
permit under the AADU as existing, or they could come out and
Mhm.
apply for an ADU under the new bylaw if it were to pass. So they would have 2
Right,
methods,
okay.
but they would have to come out.
Right.
What I find a little, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, is in the amnesty clause, you're stating, 4th line, the owner of real property containing an accessory dwelling unit as described in this section for which a validly issued variance, special permit, building permit, occupancy permit, or rental certificate does not exist. None of these apartments have any of those items. Because if they did,
Right.
they would be a protected use. They are not.
Yes. So,
We don't, the only way you can get a special permit is an AADU. They can't grant a variance.
mhm.
They have no building permit. There is no rental certificate. So therefore, much of that whole clause, to me, as it's written, is impossible for anyone that has got an illegal apartment to fall under. The only way they're going to be able to come out is to apply to the Board of Appeals for one of those two options, ADU or AADU. Is there any other member? Wait a minute. I'm sorry, Sharon. Is there any other member
No, I'm sorry.
that sees something I'm not seeing there?
No, that's the only mechanism. We only have one mechanism now. This would just provide another mechanism. But
Right.
neither one has a particular great incentive.
And if we provide it, David, basically that would give them two ways, but there is no protection because they don't have any protection at the present time.
Yeah.
Okay. Olga?
After 5 years, aren't any applicant then is in the same boat that the AADU applicant would be? Am I right?
Run that by me again, please.
If 5 years pass, if this passes, after 5 years, then what? Isn't it the same as it is now for an AADU? In other words, you just go and ask for a special permit.
This only speaks to 5 years after passage. That's the question, right, Olga?
At the end of
What
5
happens
years,
after 5 years?
it's
Well,
passed, and at the end of 5 years, they can't do this. But right now, the AADU is in the same situation as Jerry
No,
described.
the AADU is a protected use because they have a special permit.
But they go and apply, and they may be illegal at this time, an AADU, an applicant, correct? You were saying if they have an illegal and they want, that was the.
Oh, okay. Okay. What
see
you're
where I'm
saying,
going?
I think where you're going, without putting words in your mouth, we know there's at least 5 units of approved AADUs that are not in the program at the present time. So therefore, they have a special permit. Are you referring to those units? So if they've,
No, I'm referring to just someone who has an illegal apartment, wants to make an AADU today, can go to get a special permit.
absolutely,
So
they have no
in
protection of any
5
kind.
years, after this is passed, say it does pass, it's the same thing. I'm not sure why we need amnesty.
Maybe we don't.
I don't think
Maybe we
we
don't.
do because this doesn't give them any amnesty to begin with because they don't have
Okay.
a variance.
It's unnecessary then, I guess.
Okay,
Right.
I get it. Okay, that was included because it was included in a number of other towns and in the model bylaw. But now that I'm hearing it explained that there is a pathway, maybe we, instead of saying amnesty, we might say that in the event that an owner of an illegal apartment would like to make an ADU or an AADU, they need to take out a special permit and come before the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Right, with no repercussions for them having had an illegal operation going.
Exactly.
Right.
Well,
I think
I don't,
he stated in
I don't
order to come forward.
Alfred?
I don't agree with that. I'll tell you why, because you just said there's no fault of theirs. Well, suppose they put somebody in there who's a horrible tenant. I mean, why would you put up with that? Then when you find out it's an illegal apartment, if they get tossed, you're not tossing the apartment, you're tossing the tenant that didn't behave properly. You don't want to put the past history of a unit necessarily up in front for the tenant that was in it. So I think my personal opinion is you have the right at any point to apply for a special permit in the town of Wellfleet for the one that's been approved. If the other one is approved, you have the same right. If you apply later, you may have a harder time getting an occupancy permit because the building inspector can't see what's in the walls as far as electricity and the plumbing. So it behooves you to go first. But there's no reason why at this point, if there's 50 illegal apartments in Wellfleet, or a number we're throwing out there, every single one of them can go for special permit tomorrow, in my opinion.
Okay.
They chose not to.
I agree with you, but I'm not sure they feel safe doing that, having been outside of the regulations before
Well,
and trying
they're
to
not-
hide that.
yeah.
That's
Also, they
my
don't-
concern.
They don't
I
care
agree with
about
you,
the
Beth.
fines or anything. It's the cost to upgrade. And you know that. It's $100,000 to $200,000 they don't have to spend to upgrade.
But even if it's
So they're
only
not gonna.
even if it's only 20 grand, David, now I've got 2
Yeah.
years worth of rent I haven't made any money on.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I think what we're trying to do is, my personal opinion, is we're trying to use the fact that we don't have enough housing, which is true. We want to clean up the mess that the people have done in the past, which isn't our problem. The people themselves, if they really want to rent proper homes to people who live in this town, through the housing people, should be telling them, and I'm not taking sides in this, but they should explain to them what the movement in Wellfleet is right now, that it's easy to get a permit approved. We've only had one AADU denied, to the best of my knowledge, and the gentleman sat at the table. It was very clear that he was going to rent his house out in the summer and live in it for the summer only. He wasn't smart enough to even lie a little bit, and they denied him.
Mhm.
So the zoning board, in my opinion, so far, has been very, I don't want to use, level-headed in issuing these things.
Mhm.
People,
the people-
But that was a board, Alfred, that was also a board 10 years ago. Because
No,
there
I've
hasn't
seen
been
it.
an
No, I think it was 3 years ago, David.
That was the last one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But if
Okay.
you don't apply, David, you can't say the board's not doing a good job
It's true.
or a bad job.
Yep.
Well, that's the issue, they don't apply.
I don't think you get the support. I don't think you get the support and the knowledge you should out of our town hall.
Well, I agree with that.
okay. Beth, I think to your question, some of the individuals that have the illegal apartments, if this passes, are still not going to come out of the woodwork.
I agree.
They don't
Because
have
they
the
don't
money
need
to upgrade they don't have the money to upgrade the septic system.
Right,
They don't have the money to put the necessary egresses in.
right.
Some of these units are being rented to families with 2 and 3 kids in a 600 square foot, one room, which doesn't qualify them to be even legal.
Right.
So the individuals that have units that may qualify without problems from their neighbors may in fact go the ADU route or a ADU route. But most, I don't think, are going to.
I agree. Doesn't solve the problem.
One of the,
It's just
Are
a
we
tool.
saying-
Right. It's not going to solve all the problems,
right,
but it
What
might
is-
make it more legitimate and easier for people going forward than people who are already in existence in a sub-legal relationship with their tenants.
okay. So this, before I go any further, anybody else got any questions?
I got one last.
Yeah, I got a
the Beth.
All right, Alfred,
Beth, we asked these exact same questions when we created the AADU. How it was going to get better, how the illegal stuff was going to come out. That's why I've been overly concerned where adding something else isn't going to clean up any of the past.
I agree with you. I was rudely awakened when I was doing the census and people were lying to my face. I could see they had units and they say, oh no, that's not a unit. That's just storage. Bullshit. I
Oh,
could
yeah.
see it was a unit. And they just lie about it and the town doesn't know and they don't, then, you know, they just continue this system, this abusive system. It's abusive to the tenants and it's abusive to the town. And I don't see either of these solving that problem. But it might create a way for people to do business differently going forward if they know there's a different option. And it's all about, you know, the integrity of people. I can't really speak to that.
So do you think,
Well, I'm
I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
go
So do
ahead.
you think if we were to approve this, and I didn't say that's what I was doing, I want to be very clear about that,
If,
that instead of letting the horse out of the barn, so to speak, that if this was approved and then had a number attached to it for a yearly thing, how would we, in any way, shape, or form, police the ones that did get out there to make sure that it didn't continue in a bad way?
Well, Alfred, we can't contain the 15 that we have. This is now going to reach, remember, we have 3,100 residential properties in Wellfleet. If just 10% take advantage of this new bylaw, that's 300. Well,
It's
if
not
we
gonna
can't
happen.
manage 15, how are we going to manage 300 additional units in Wellfleet?
well, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be
Can I
that.
speak to that? Can I speak to that?
Sure.
It's, you know, so in the towns on the Cape that have had the most, or the least restrictive ADU bylaws passed, the most that they've achieved has been like 5 in a year. And that's in towns that have both a town planner and a housing coordinator out there beating the bushes. It's not a route that's going to appeal to that many people. But if we get just a few every year, then, you know, slowly I mean, if we got 4 a year, that would be very optimistic. In 10 years, we would have almost as many units as as we're hoping to get in 95 Lawrence Road. But that's a very optimistic number. Very few towns have reached that.
Okay.
Have we
I
dealt with,
noticed, I talked to the building inspector out of Dennis. Paul said they turned it down because they've had a bylaw in the books and they have a lot of small lots like Wellfleet, and they just didn't see the harmony or the numbers coming out of the woodwork and what bylaw they had to make sense and didn't do it. One of the concerns I'm having is the ADU proposal is a free enterprise proposal. I think originally Sharon and Elaine, when this was brought up, I can remember Alfred and I think a couple of us saying, you know, if this was affordable, that would be a different story. But what market you're going after is to lift that affordability and open it up to individuals making more than the cap on affordability. So because it's market driven, I tend to agree with you, Sharon, and 10% is just not going to happen. I think if we saw 2 or 3 units a year, it would be a miracle. What's concerning me, though, and I substantiate this with a member, and if you've got a 2-bedroom, jump in if I got wrong information. If you got a 2-bedroom and you have an AADU, and under the cap, you can charge $950 maximum and not supply utilities.
No, you can more than that.
What's the number? No
Uh,
utilities.
I will look it up. Elaine might have it on the tip of her tongue. Elaine, do you know?
You're muted, Elaine.
I was thinking Mike probably should maybe have it at hand for the AADUs.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
What's a two-bedroom rent for with utilities and without utilities under an AADU maximum?
With utilities, it's $1,513, so 1513. I don't know what it is without utilities. That's the number I have just with utilities.
Two-bedroom is $1,500
Yes,
with utilities.
yes.
How much?
Mike, what's the definition of utilities? Is it heat and water for those who now have a water bill? Or is it
I believe
clarified?
so, David.
It's everything,
I believe
David.
so, but I have to
It's
look it up.
everything. It's heat,
Everything, right?
electricity.
Pretty much everything, all your basic utilities.
What's the cap income?
That depends on how many people.
Well,
So
two-bedroom,
for-
let's say two adults
For
and
two people, two adults, it's 87,900 combined income maximum.
they can have as many children.
I believe that's income earning adults, right? Elaine, you know that?
Well, if it's a couple with 4 children, it would count as a 4-person household, and the income could go up to the 4-person household
Okay.
income.
In which case that'd be 109,800.
Okay, so I guess I gotta ask the question, if we're going outside of the AADU caps and we're going to the free market for the ADUs, what kind of incomes are we trying to, 87, $109,000? I mean,
It's pretty good money.
that's,
Those are combined income.
who are we going after here?
Yeah, those are combined
Can
income.
I,
Yeah, okay, fine, but I mean, most of the people, the husband and wife who work in the town of Wellfleet, if they can find a job, who are we going after, Sharon? Elaine, both of you.
so it might be people, it might be the same people, but the market won't bear a whole lot more than that for year-round small apartments. Okay, if the cap is 1,200 square feet and it's year-round, then you might get some professionals who are making a little more than that. You might get some shell fishermen who make more in a year, a good year, and less in a bad year. It's not that different a market. It's just that some people are not wanting to, come in with their tax returns every year and go through that whole route.
But they
It's not like people are going to get $5,000 a month rent on these things.
So
What-
Jerry, here's my question. If we don't do it, we don't give homeowners a legal option. We only, we settle for what exists, which is not ideal by any means. If we don't do anything. If we do something, we might not have any conversion to speak of, but at least publicly, we've given people a legal, responsible option. Isn't that
And
what
someone
we're
who's
supposed to do?
Well,
I would say so.
I'm not sure that what's being presented is responsible. I would take issue with that.
Okay, well, so when we finalize it, I'm not
Well,
saying
then-
this particular language,
Yeah,
but
Beth, I see your point, but okay, just what we do, and I'm not making any, just like Alfred said, I haven't made a decision yet. It's just what we do with these things when we're trying to make up a zoning bylaw that we have got to present to town meeting. We've got to show a reason for it and a need. And when we're speaking at town meeting and all of a sudden someone asks the question, what's the cap on AADUs? And if it's two people working and a party of four, they can earn $109,000. I can hear the snickering at town hall saying from shell fishermen, carpenters, and everybody else saying, God almighty, it would be nice to make $109,000. I haven't seen that in 20 years because they adjust their income. So much of it's under the whole 9 yards. So it's like, if we've got a really seriously good cap on the AADUs and no one's building those, what makes us think, and we're building 45 more units on 95 Lawrence, what makes us think that we need to create,
Let the horse out of the barn.
create additional ADUs on small lots with water quality, with everything else in the town of Wellfleet, when we've got it covered and they're not even being built in the first place? I haven't heard a convincing argument.
Can I say
Well,
something?
Jerry, you know, for years
No, wait a minute. Before I get to Bonnie, Elaine, I think I saw Elaine's hand.
I think with the intent with the AADU back when it was done was partially to start to address what we now call the missing middle, and the people that might make a little too much for regular affordable housing, but they still don't make anywhere near enough to purchase a home. And in Provincetown, they have filed special legislation to let their affordable housing go up to 200% of area median income, because even people with pretty decent jobs can't afford, our basic price of a single family home is over $600,000. So we need
that's what we should be doing that.
We need to provide housing choices for people that make anything under what it takes to afford to buy a home in town.
Which is anybody working.
And these percentages are based on Barnstable County income. We can't bring it down to the Wellfleet granular level. We know a lot of people aren't making that kind of money in Wellfleet, but these percentages are based on Barnstable County income. So, taking that into consideration, most of the people who have AADUs are making nowhere near that higher amount. But we have this missing chunk of people that we're trying. The intent of this is to go forward to provide more stock of legal dwellings that can fit a range of different people's incomes. We do have shell fishermen that are making that kind of money, maybe not this year, but we've seen them apply for some of our programs and they make a little too much. We have these lanes that we have to fit people into, and it's getting to be recognized across the whole Cape that the ADU fills a need. And that's what we're trying to do.
Okay. Bonnie?
Yeah, I think that when we were talking about the ways for people, creating an avenue for people to make their accessory dwelling units legal, I think that the, maybe we're not, I mean, I think Sharon alluded to it some, but I think that the necessity for AADUs to recertify this tenant's income every year and, you know, to do all the bureaucracy that is associated with the AADUs is yet kind of another deterrent. And to have, you know, you still have to, you know, get a special permit or whatever the avenue is that you all were talking about, but it is less onerous for both the owner and the tenant to have an ADU. And so I think, kind of building on what Beth said about, you know, providing that legal avenue and, you know, and maybe doing much more marketing and communication, you know, to have people convert their places, but, you know, to let it be known that it can be easier. I think we don't take into account enough people's reluctance to have the government looking into their incomes.
Oh, boy, yes, you're right.
And, you know, and having our whole social safety net is based on distrust and, you know, having to recertify every 6 months or every year. And it often, I think, people are reluctant to do that. So, I mean, I think it sounds like, I mean, I think even if this only added, you know, 3 units a year, you know, it would still be worth it. And I think the idea of, you know, letting the horse out of the barn, it doesn't sound like there's going to be a giant rush to do this, frankly. I don't see this increasing usage a lot. Maybe it sounds like the other towns have not seen that happen. So I just don't think that we need to I don't think we need to make a decision based on the worst case scenario.
How many towns on the Cape have passed it? You got to turn the mic on, Sharon.
Sorry. Let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have seven that have passed it since 2017.
So half.
Yeah.
So we don't really have any statistics on how successful or not they are at this point.
Well,
Nor do we really.
It hasn't been in place long enough, no.
Yeah.
But we do know.
And of those, yeah.
I was just going to say, but we do know that they haven't been adding, like, you know, many each year.
Yeah.
The cap on income for this is just point of information for me, I guess. The cap on AADU income of 2 people working, say, with no kids at $87,000 or $90,000, is that gross or net? Reportable. Gross.
Gross.
Okay.
Well, I like Elaine's approach on having special litigation to bump that up to 200%. P-Town can do it, certainly Wellfleet can.
Yeah. Takes a couple of years or more.
Well, I'd rather do that than to do something that's filled with a lot of loopholes and hazards.
So,
I do
Jerry,
think-
if I could just add that, you know, if you use that model of 2 persons, 87,000 a year, max income, our typical policeman and firefighter at the entry level here in town is somewhere plus or minus $60,000 a year income. So they would have to have their significant other to be making, you know, less than $27,000 a year in order for them to qualify for an AADU right now, just to give you an example.
Well, so I'm also an example. So I'm a retired person on a fixed income. and my household fixed income doesn't meet that requirement. I mean, I make too much money. So I can't do it.
So
And,
why
and
don't
I
we
have
just,
a minimal fixed income.
so why don't we just bump it up? I have two questions. One is I don't understand why we just don't bump it up. And two, through you, Jerry, to Sharon, if I may.
Certainly.
She came out with $1,500 for rent. If we go to an ADU, what does she believe? Because if they've tried this in other places, we should have some type of a factor. What do we believe a two-bedroom unit in Wellfleet is going to rent through an ADU?
I think when I spoke with the housing coordinator from Brewster, I asked her that question and she said, we don't track that. She said, because it's not important. The important thing is adding rentals, year-round rentals at whatever the market, if some owners are getting more money because they have a more, lavish apartment or something, that's between them and the market. But the market in general is not going to bear that much higher a rent. It's just another tool. It's just another tool. That's all it is.
Yeah. It won't bear it on a year-round basis, but seasonal basis, you'll kill it, just like every other rental.
Yeah, but you have to have
Right.
a year-round lease.
We can't enforce what we have. I don't see opening the doors.
We can enforce the AADUs.
We haven't. It's a fact. We haven't.
No, well, some of them have dropped out of the program.
Yeah, we're at 60% success rate.
Well,
I consider that a failure. That's why I think we should be addressing that rather than making a new bylaw.
I think we address both, and we're working on the AADU. We're looking at ways to beef it up and support it more. And,
Here you go, just keep it downstairs for now.
just more tools. That's all it is.
If either Elaine or Sharon, this is kind of a question to you. I'm sure there will be members jump in, but is there any concern that, from what I've heard from a few from you, is okay, some people just don't like filing their income tax every year in the paperwork to get into a rental for the AADU. Since the AADUs already have special permits, and I'm just going to use the number 16, assuming that they're all legal at this point. Those 16 units already have special permits for second year-round dwellings. If an ADU bylaw in Wellfleet passes, and all they have to do as far as a tenant goes, or the owner, I think it's the owner, substantiate, yes, I'm renting year-round, certify it, pass it in the town hall. We don't know what they charge. The tenant nor the owner have to supply any rent income or any verification of income. Is there any concern that we're going to lose a number of those AADUs and say, why am I doing this? Why don't I just switch over to an ADU, not have to file, not have to ask my tenant for income, not have to file with town hall, charge whatever I want. The tax shelter is nice, the tax benefit's nice, but the town of Wellfleet's giving me everybody across the board, if you're a year-round resident, a tax break. Have either one of you looked at whether or not we're potentially going to lose some AADUs? I think we are. It's my personal.
Follow the money.
Go ahead, Elaine.
Well, we might, but I think a lot of the creation of AADUs is based on creating something for a family or a friend who you know who needs it. I think the people who created AADUs are the angels amongst us. They've done something good. And they should really be, you know, they've contributed a lot to Wellfleet. It could be that someone has had an AADU since the beginning. Their kids have grown up, they got better jobs, they went away. They sunk a lot of money into it. If they wanted to change it, it's still a rental unit in town, which are scarce to come by. But I do think that the real heart of the AADU is done by people for a certain reason, because the people they're doing it for are in need of that. And these are people that want to meet that need. You know, obviously some people could change their mind, but as Sharon said, it's not taking away a rental unit.
We don't know that though.
Well, I feel like, I mean, I think it's the town's job to do the policing of this. And if it, and I think we have someone in town now who is very willing to do it and capable to do it. I know it's been hard, but I don't think the opportunity to create a vehicle to create legal apartments should be stopped, because we have to say to the, I mean, the town has to say, if this is important to us, if we need these, it's our job to do the work to make sure that we're keeping track of them as best we can. I'd hate to see the enforcement thing slow this down, because it's not your job to enforce it. I mean, it's our job to put something in the bylaw that could help, but the town has to agree to do that work too. And I think we have a town now that recognizes the need and would be willing to put some, you know, working power behind administering it.
Well, Elaine, the jury's out on that. Been here a month. There are a lot of issues that need to be cleaned up. Ongoing stuff that's been brought to his face. We'll see if he cleans them up or not. So thus far, the jury's still out. The honeymoon ain't over. So I'm not willing to drink the Kool-Aid yet, just because we think we have a new guy who will do it. So there's still a lot of issues with this bylaw that have a lot of deficiencies to it that are very vague. They don't address water. They don't address parking. They don't address Title V. They're all vague and gray.
They do address
and a
Title
lot of
V.
it is hinged on enforcement.
Beth?
I'd like to suggest that we work on the language of a bylaw to the nth degree, that we debate the language of the bylaw to get it to the point where we can vote on it to bring it to town meeting, and stop debating whether or not the general idea is our attention point. So we're debating whether or not we want a bylaw. I'm suggesting that we create the bylaw and then move it forward or not.
Well, the reason why I'm going the route of whether we want the bylaw, I think quite honestly, with Sharon's submittal, taking out the 5-year protection, that's simple enough to draw. I think we can do that without a problem. The drawing the bylaw doesn't faze me a bit. I mean, we've got town council who can pass. I could almost hand this to town council right now if the vote were there, and she could fine tune it as far as she can go. She can't touch the enforcement side. You can write all day long the enforcement,
and neither can we.
Exactly. So that's really not where I was going with Elaine. I was more concerned with, are we going to lose something we've already got with the AADUs to the ADUs? But I think that premise is, if the board and I think we probably can get through it tonight, is if the board is in favor of at least putting this forward, it's not that difficult to write the bylaw. Whether it's ever enforced is a completely different situation out of our hands.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, and we're not going to solve that problem here or now or in the future. It's going to be solved by other individuals who basically are going to have to be told to do so from the powers that be. But
All we can
I think
do,
the simplicity of drawing this, of which we started with, I mean, we're looking at 1.5, 2 pages of a bylaw. Town council may add something else, but I mean, it's really quite simple.
Yeah, but Jerry, you know,
intent
town
is-
council doesn't do much. They
Huh?
just read it for legalities. They don't understand the implications. They just read it for legalities.
No, they would.
Nor do they look at it whether it's challengeable in court under those legalities.
I'm sorry, David, but they do, because as long as I've been involved with town council, with writing bylaws, we dive into that aspect of it.
Well,
Town
okay,
council's
I've
gonna-
had different
town
experience.
Town council is going to come back and say, yes, the bylaw that I'm going to draw is only as good as the enforcement, and whether or not the town's going to enforce it is not up to me when I draw it. That's up to the town of Wellfleet.
Yeah.
Is the Board of Health going to enforce 100% of the Board of Health regulations if we pass the bylaw? That's up to the Board of Health. We can't put
Yeah.
this in the bylaw. So we have to rely on those other agencies and committees and departments within the town of Wellfleet to do their job. Our job is the bylaw to present to town meeting. That's simply the bylaw. That's our job.
Jerry, Ryan Curley has his hand up.
Oh, okay. I see the R, but I don't see.
Yep, there's a blue hand in the corner, so he would like to talk to you.
we don't
Okay,
see that.
Brian?
We see that.
Yeah, thank you. So in regards to the existing AADUs, currently, because of the income restrictions, you have individuals in town whose income rises over time. Let's say they get a raise at work or anything like that. And then let's say 1 year it can be as little as $500 extra for 1 year, and they are no longer eligible for the AADUs and they lose their housing. What happens in that case is that oftentimes they look for ways of ensuring that they do not get that, small raise, because the consequences of doing so outweighs the benefit of them actually receiving more money. And over time, that holds down their salary over the long term. If they continually decline raises, their salary effectively remains unmoved, except as indexed to inflation, which is how the AADUs are priced. I think you have to be really mindful that there are people that, all of a sudden make too much money to actually find housing in town. And there's no quick way for them to purchase a house at that point, because of the values that all of our single family homes cost. You either buy a home that has significant issues, is going to take a year or so to fix all the outstanding issues of the house, or you're left with fighting over a house that's, people are paying way more than what we optimally would like them to see. I think you have to be really mindful that this is what is pricing people out of Wellfleet and why we cannot retain the majority of the young people in town. Thank you.
Okay.
Why can't we bump that up to 200,000 like Provincetown? Why hasn't that been filed? That seems like that should be in conjunction with any bylaws to have that filed.
So can I ask a question?
Before you did, Beth, Sharon had her hand up. You
Okay.
wanted to-
I just want to say that there aren't enough rentals in town at any price at this point in time. The rental vacancy rate is 0 and normally is. So even if someone wanted, made 200%, or we raised the limits, they wouldn't be able to find a place to live. They just don't.
Yep, I get it. Beth?
So I agree with whoever R was who spoke, because I've lived with this over and over again. I've had employees who could not accept a raise because it would have put them out of their house and their family out of their house. So they couldn't take a raise. And yet it's a negotiated union raise. They have to take it. It's a problem. So my question is there a way to go from AADU to ADU? Is there a way for people not to have to limit their income so they can keep their housing by moving forward out of an AADU unit? Can that be fluid so people have the opportunity to increase their income and maintain their rental home? Is that a possibility?
I think I can only see it's a possibility, Beth, provided, it goes back to Ryan's point, if someone gets the raise, and that's what you're saying, that's provided that the individuals, there are going to be individuals that want to go out and spend.
No, it's more about how you define the dwelling.
Well, in order to go from a rental AADU to another rental unit in the town of Wellfleet, you would have to have an ADU.
Well,
There is no other way there is really no other way.
So I guess that's what I'm asking.
That there is.
Can
there
the
is a
dwelling
few of them, but
that's-
there's very,
that's
very
defined-
few of them.
Can the dwelling that's defined as an AADU under that bylaw morph into an ADU in our new bylaw? Because their income went up minusculely, but just too much to stay in an AADU. Can we create a bylaw that makes it flexible for that dwelling to enter a new category if their income grows?
Oh, I see. Okay, I think I get
Which is
you.
what we want. We want their income to grow and we want them to stay housed.
Well, I think,
Right?
Can I try that?
yeah, Alfred, go ahead.
Help me out, Alfred.
Well, there's two problems with it, Beth. One, as soon as you go from the AADU to the ADU, you lose your tax break as being the landlord. Okay?
Is that not dependent on how we write the bylaw?
No, because I believe we were told by the assistant town administrator we can't increase the part of that.
We
The only thing we
can't,
could-
we can't expand that benefit.
Correct. To get the tax break.
Okay.
But by listening to you, if we went to 200%
Mhm.
for an ADU, okay, in my opinion as a landlord, it would be more beneficial for me to create ADUs where my tenants now have a real income and they can remember to pay me all the time.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
No, I'm serious because
No, I am too. That's good for everybody.
because if you rent to the bare minimum on an ADU, some of those people are going to the town of Wellfleet's housing assistance and other places to come up with the rest of the money in January and February to pay you.
Oh, okay.
So my question is, if you raise the 100,000 to 150, whatever numbers come out to what it is, I'm not picking a number, please, I'm not doing that. But if you can get a tenant and you get a guaranteed rent check because their income is, nothing's guaranteed, but a rent check that is more realistic for their income, then at that point, I think more people would actually do the AADUs, because they're not renting to somebody who they're afraid they're not going to have enough money to pay you. So we've been stuck with an AADU, in my opinion, because as you were concerned, when your employee makes $6 a year more than they're allowed to, they're exempt from that unit. You'd be better off increasing the income allowance, because now the tenant doesn't have to go look for a different apartment. They still have a place to live.
Right.
Oh,
I totally agree with that.
I thought the income was set by federal or state law, that you can't just increase it like that.
Probably
you can by
town adjusted
percentage.
it. Yeah,
No,
special litigation, yeah.
Yes, you can through special litigation, because we're not at the bottom. We're at low to moderate income. And I don't know, this would be a Sharon or a
Mike
part of the housing question. But what could we go to for an income rate cap for
Elaine.
maybe be Elaine? I'm not. I apologize for that, but I mean, my question is, under an AADU, what can we go to for a max?
I don't know that we can do anything without a legal, way to do it. I think I understand what you're saying, and it's a really interesting idea. But I do think the ADU appeal is because there aren't as many restrictions as we've said, that you have your year-round lease and maybe you certify once a year, or some towns do it every 3 years. It's less hassle for the landlord and tenant.
But less benefit.
And well, ideally, I would, as our local realtors say, the market for rentals is a certain amount. A lot of the ADUs probably wouldn't end up being terribly more expensive than the AADUs. I mean, we just don't know. We would love to find out what the market would do with this, if possible.
I think the first thing you're going to have to find out is, if we pass this, if we move forward, whether or not it even gets passed on town meeting floor. That's the real question. I just had a thought.
Yeah.
And this goes, Beth, to what you just came up with. We've got an AADU in the system. There's a special permit granting authority, special permit zoning bylaw for AADUs. They have to go for a special permit. They're going to have to basically face the exact same problems that an ADU would face before the Board of Appeals.
Mm-hmm.
It's been brought up by Ryan and a couple of you that, okay, if someone gets bumped up a little bit, they're going to be forced out of the unit they're in and they have no place to go. I'm thinking in my own mind that we're going to lose a number of AADUs anyway, because of the free market may charge a little bit more, there may be less paperwork, whatever. I just had this thought. What if we could say, wait a minute, you can go for a special permit for either an AADU maybe the same permit, or an ADU. Same process through the Board of Appeals. What if we gave the individual who has the special permit for either one the choice to either opt in or opt out? Because they have the unit, they've gotten by the neighbors, it's existing, whether or not it's an AADU or an ADU, back to Elaine's point and Sharon's point, it's a rental unit. If we give the ability to that owner to say, you know what, for the next couple of years, I'm going to rent AADU to Mr. Smith. But Mr. Smith all of a sudden just got a $10,000 raise and he can't be in my apartment as an AADU. But because I have a special permit, I'm going to opt out of the AADU program and go into an ADU. No more paperwork, no more special permit, just drops out. Already a legal unit and moves over to the ADU.
Oh, Jerry, you're speaking to me.
That works.
I love it.
I guess I haven't had dinner. But and I don't know how the rest of you are, but all of a sudden
Everybody will go
all
ADU,
this, I'm
Jerry.
saying, wait a minute, if you're gonna make
Yeah.
somebody go
So
for
good for them.
huh?
Good. So if they move to ADU from AADU, so be
They
it.
lose the tax benefit on one side, they keep the tenant on the other.
It's a
They
great
do
thing.
more filing. The Board of Appeals is looking at one thing and one thing only, and the neighbor is too. I'm either gonna have an ADU or an AADU. What does it matter?
And the tenant isn't limited.
Exactly.
I like it.
I have utter silence from everybody else.
Okay, well.
Actually, Alfred has his hand up, Jerry. I don't know
Alfred,
if he means to, but he does have his hand up.
Alfred,
Well, I have a problem with it, and I think we could probably work it out. The problem I have is the AADU at that point is a starter home,
yeah,
okay, or rent, I guess I should say, not a home. And under our AADU, we allow 3.
okay, yeah.
Good point.
So at that point,
But at this point, keep your thought.
no, I don't have.
At this point, we only have, except one existing apartment building that has 3 ADUs in it, but is already prior to non-conforming existing multifamily dwelling. Nobody else has built anything more than a single unit on their property.
I
So
may
what if we
disagree.
backed off the ADUs? Just thinking, Alfred, what if we backed off the ADUs to 1 unit?
Well, I disagree with that because the apartment that you just said that is a 3 building with an AADU in it
Yep. Actually,
does
all
not have
3
a
are.
it does not have a special permit.
No, because it was
So
but it's still
anybody,
under the program.
because anybody today does not have to get a special permit necessarily to do the AADU as long as you do the rent verification. So if you have a single family home and you want to rent it under our AADU guidelines,
Get the tax benefit.
you can rent that unit. All right. So I didn't want to get that far into it, but my question is, I believe there is room for more than one AADU on some lots if this is actually implemented properly and is supported properly. So my question is, if you allow the first AADU to become an ADU, and you still allow 3 AADUs, I think you're going to have to cap the ADU on that property for the expansion, unfortunately. Because you can't have 3 starter homes in a perfect world, and all of a sudden the people will be making a lot of money, and you make them into single-family homes.
And maybe there should be a cap anyway.
That could be written.
But you understand my concern of,
Yeah, I do.
because I've always looked at the AADU as a starter home. You get somebody a place to live. The rent is fairly inexpensive, in my opinion. Depending on what you make, it could be exorbitant. But, I mean, that's what, the traffic has to bear. So at that point, you could either increase your income, which I suggest we go to the 200%. And if you want to do the ADU, I can see that as both, but we're going to have to be very clear at the zoning level, to the zoning board, that if you want to do an apple for an apple, where you can change them, we're going to have to watch out for the second and the third unit on the lot.
Okay, but what do you, all right, if we, and I think we could, what's your gut on the thought?
Oh, I think it solves a lot of problems, Jerry, as long as the AADU doesn't evaporate, because I disagree with Sharon and them that the rents are going to be on the ADU the same thing. I mean, we've got people who can't afford to pay the ADU rent rate.
Right.
And some people don't charge the full rate because they take the tax benefit in consideration. So I think that it'd be nice to have enough houses for everybody, but are you going to price out the people at the lower level of this by not having the
rent control? That's going to evaporate.
I think so. That's what my concern is.
That's where we're at.
I think there's going to be, where I was going with it, I think there's going to be some individuals that will stay, to Elaine's point, that they've got a lot of heart with and in the AADU, maybe because of the size of the unit, or maybe because the tenant, they're going to stay in the program. But there are going to be some that are going to say, wait a minute, I want to switch over. Now do I have to go through another special permit, the whole 9 yards? I'm thinking we're talking almost the same kind of process. Let those stay. And I'm also thinking to myself, okay, to Elaine's point, if we can do this and go to 200, add this into the equation, because that might be another way where all of a sudden more people will do the ADUs than the ADUs. But I think if we're going to open the door, we may want to think about opening wide enough to make it easier for those individuals to cross, keep the tenants they have.
Yes.
And maybe when that tenant moves out and buys a house, they might say, no, I want to go back to the AADU because I've got a friend that doesn't make that kind of money and I no longer need it, so therefore I'm going to go back. And it's really just very easy to do so once you have a permit to do either or.
Exactly.
So, it's 8:45. We got to get finished. If I can, I think we've got the boilerplate basically from Sharon. What I need is basically throwing this monkey wrench into it. If you can all, and I know David Mead, I know Olga, didn't jump in on any of this conversation, but basically where we went and kind of the thought I just threw out, if you can take that away, in that first meeting in January, we come back and say, okay, I think what I'm going to do is poll the board and say, do you want to move forward? If we get a positive yes, then we just start working on it and see if maybe we can create a cross between these two to make it easy to switch back and forth. It may be a little bit more difficult, whoever is going to keep eye on it, but if you don't submit for the ADU, then we simply notify them, where's the lease for the ADU? That's simple. I'm oversimplifying it, but I think it can be worked out, Alfred, especially with those 3 units, and I think we can look at it. So
I'm open to that, Jerry, as long as in the same mix of it, we pump up the income.
I think that needs to be done as well, Alfred, automatically.
In
Whether we're not
conjunction.
talking about the ADU, I think that should
Absolutely.
be done. Yeah. I think
Absolutely.
yes. So with that, unless there's somebody that's really got an imperative question on this, I'm going to move forward. Is that okay, members?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Good. Elaine, Sharon? Yeah, Sharon?
Just clarify for me, are you asking us to go back
No.
and rewrite
you're
this
done.
by January? You're gonna do it.
You're done. At this point, you've redrafted that. I think basically, and I haven't found out from the other members, but I think the amnesty is going to probably go by the wayside.
That's
But the
fine.
rest of it, I think, is enough for us to work on if we're going to move forward. And I think now
Okay,
we need to think about this ease between ADU and AADU.
and the goal is still Springtown meeting, correct?
Yes.
Don't hold
I
your
mean,
hat.
I'm aiming for it. I don't, at this point, with what information I have, I don't know what's going to be going on at town hall and what hurdles we're going to have and when we're going to have it. But yes, we're moving. If that January meeting, we can come to the consensus that we're going to move forward, that would be the key that we would want to turn out a zoning bylaw. Yes.
Okay, you're not gonna come to that consensus tonight?
Hell
About moving
no.
forward?
I think I've given them, I think I've given them a little bit more to think about making that transition, at least in my mind, it personally, by making it an easy transition for the Board of Appeals to say, okay, I don't care whether it's an ADU or I don't care if it's an AADU. I'm giving you a special permit for either or, and you can switch back and forth. It's whatever you call it. You want a tax shelter this year, a tax rebate this year, fine. If you don't, and you want to switch, fine. I don't think the Board of Appeals cares.
No, I
All they
agree with
care
you.
about
They
is.
don't care
did
about
they
much,
meet-
Jerry. So
Exactly. All they care about is, have they met? What's the abutters' concerns? Have they met those concerns, and they grant the permit? If the permit's granted, it should be for either or, in my mind, at this point.
Jerry?
Yes, David.
Jerry, I just want to say, I've been listening to all this, it's very good and interesting, but it seems to me, this is to Sharon and Elaine, and tell me, members, if I'm saying this incorrectly in your mind, it seems to me that we are interested enough in the ADU and in making more rental housing available, that we want to go forward and work on the bylaw in the way that you described, Jerry, and involve town council and discuss it again and go through the process. And so it conceptually, in my mind, it's kind of a yes to Sharon and Elaine, but we've got to do the work still to come up with something that we can all really support and have the right language, et cetera. Does that make sense?
well said, David.
That's the gist of it, David. Yeah, it's a matter of we're gonna get by that thing. I'll go before you, Bonnie. Bonnie,
Yes, I just want to make sure that we understand who's doing what in order that, and what, so that we can vote at the January meeting. Like who's going
No,
to do, what is actually needs to happen? for
what
this
needs to happen
be the
is,
Final version for us to vote on. I'm not clear on that.
we're not gonna vote on the final version of what Sharon has presented. What we're going to discuss on the meeting on January is the consensus of the planning board to move forward with an ADU unit.
Oh.
If the consensus is positive, then the discussion with you thinking about it over the holidays is, should we in fact merge the permit together and say, okay, maybe we take some of the AADU guidelines, put them into this and say, listen, the permit is a permit for either an ADU or an AADU, it doesn't matter. once you have that special permit, you have the right to rent an apartment. That's it. Okay,
Yes.
Bonnie, is that okay?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, there's still a question in your mind, but I got an okay. Olga?
This might be Bonnie's question, but if I wanted to submit something to the next meeting as part of our packet, thinking about how to combine, would that be
Absolutely,
okay?
absolutely.
And I'm willing to work with Elaine and Sharon and Bonnie, whoever wants to work on it so that we can move forward faster. I mean, you may not accept anything that I prepare.
No, I think if you want to certainly work with Elaine and Sharon on that aspect, I can appreciate that. I have absolutely no problem as a chair with that, because you and Alfred are the only ones that really do rent an AADU. Consequently, you're a lot more familiar with it, but this is a new premise, and if you feel you can work it in, and we've got some things we need to work with, by all means, any communication, anything in writing to help us along in that process would be welcome. Just get it in before that Thursday of that next January.
Well, next meeting, whenever it is.
Next meeting is supposedly the 2nd of January. I'm sorry, no, is this,
It's the 6th of January.
yeah, so that's fine. That's the 6th of January, so you just get it in that previous Thursday, okay?
Mhm.
Great. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you all that
Thank
were there.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, I'm gonna take climate control out of this for 1 second. Briar Lane update for all of you that are following this. The last meeting, there was a parking plan that was submitted to the Board of Appeals for 8 parking spaces. If the Board of Appeals was going to move on that, it would no longer come to the planning board for review because it's less than 10. However, at the last meeting, it was brought to the applicant's attention that 2 primary uses on the same property are not allowed in the central district. Therefore, the applicant did not, they went back and said, oh, the applicant said, okay, let me continue the meeting and let me think over what's going on and research it, because that was a stumbling block they didn't expect. So that's all. There's nothing the planning board is doing at the present time with Briar Lane. It's sitting there for the applicant and the Board of Appeals to work out. Okay?
So Jerry, just for clarity, so the idea is that issue of the principal use issue, I'll call it, needs to be resolved before anything else gets resolved, anything else happens.
That appears to be the real question. Yes, David, is that's what town council is weighed in on.
Right.
I've got to get to town council because, quite honestly, I need, as chair, I really need a clear and decisive idea as to where town council is going with this primary use thing, because I'm not sure whether it needs to trigger anything that we as a planning board need to discuss, because it came out of left field.
Yeah. So it's got to be dealt with at that level first, and that's by ZBA.
Yes, and then at the same time, I'm going to get a hold of council and find out where they are with this.
Yeah.
And has it now created a problem in the zoning bylaws that we really didn't see.
Right.
'Cause
Well,
it-
Jerry,
Yeah, David?
there are a lot of other issues with that, just in that app, more than that.
Yeah, there are,
Although
but
they're not at the,
that issue, David, is one that affects us as a planning
Yeah.
board directly.
oh, yeah.
Okay, it's not health, it's not water, it's not parking, it's nothing. It's really, there was a monkey wrench thrown into that
Principal use, yeah.
is a zoning situation that we are the only ones that can address if there's a problem. To bring it.
I gotta agree with David Rowell. I think that there are, just to make it clear as a point of information, I actually listed issues, and what I'm not going to go into now, that I think are issues with Briar Lane that we should be discussing, but we've got to get through this other thing first. I think there's a lot of issues, but that's for later.
We have, this is not a special permit before the planning board.
Right.
We have no input on that permit.
Right.
Okay? We have no input on that permit. We're not the special grant.
So Jerry, just help me out.
Yep.
What is our focus on this issue? What should we be thinking about?
At Briar Lane?
Yes.
Nothing now.
Nothing at this point except for clarity. It needs some clarity from town council on this primary use.
Principal use and secondary
Principal
use,
use.
yeah.
So
Well, the town council has said, and she's writing, and whoever it is writing a letter to the Board of Appeals, putting it in writing. So I'm gonna get a copy of that as well as talk to them. It's two primary uses on the same property that is only allowed in the commercial district. And I've got to find out,
So it has to be one primary use, not two?
yes, and I've got to find out how they've determined that it's two primary uses, because we've had two uses on a number of properties in the town of Wellfleet in the past.
So two uses. So one use is business,
Which is a primary use by special permit, and an
and,
apartment.
and the
primary
other
use
is
by special
residential
permit.
use?
Yeah.
What?
That doesn't strike me as a problem, but.
Sounds
Well, in the past, if I may, we've always allowed that to become a special permit, providing you could get through the quirks of your project. In my opinion, by what town council is saying, 2/3 of what's gone on in the central district is no longer allowed. You can't have a liquor
Two
store
principal uses.
with
yeah.
with an apartment over top of it. So the stores that were built in the center of town and other places that the zoning board in the past has either approved or not approved had that luxury. By what town council's come back, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, is saying that the board doesn't even have the right to approve any of that anymore.
Really?
That's kind of what they're saying, but I've got to find out substantially much deeper.
Well, that's a
what's on
problem.
the surface is, how did town council arrive at the two primary uses? Is it because both primary uses were special permits? Is it including any by right and a primary use, which is special permit? It needs clarification because it doesn't seem consistent with what's happened in the past.
Yeah.
Jerry, Phil Richardson has his hand up.
Okay, Phil.
Am I just want to mention one thing. At the last zoning board meeting on 20 Briar Lane, the ZBA believes you guys have given up on it and aren't going to respond anymore. So you might want to approach them if you are going to do something and let them know that you intend to do something. They're under the assumption that you guys have let it go by the board and nothing's going to happen from the planning board. Just want to point that out to you.
Nothing, at this point, if they've decided to reduce the parking less than 10, it does not come to the planning board.
Right, I understand that, but the board hasn't decided. Only the petitioner has decided to keep it under 10, not the board.
That's
Well,
all
then
that matters.
Then the Board of Appeals has got to decide if it's 10, if they're going to require 12 parking spaces, then they would need to bring us back into the situation.
Well, all I'm getting at is you might want to tell them that. Give them your point of view, because I think they think you're done with it and aren't going to do anything. You know, from what I can gather, it should be approximately 30 parking spaces or more.
30?
Yeah, because of square footage.
Because the square footage, if you use 613 and Ben's trying to throw out 613, he said the board can do whatever they want, but there is a bylaw that says 150 square feet. And that's going to be what's going to be talked about.
And then you got to count the employees.
Right, then you've got employees, you've got the apartments. You got a lot happening there.
Okay, I've asked for plans. The last plan that came back to Rebecca, I believe Rebecca showed 8 parking spaces.
That's correct. That's what they presented.
Rebecca?
Yes, that's correct.
So they're presenting something that takes it out of our jurisdiction. But
They
what
have
I
presented-
think I'm hearing
they
you
have-
say is there will be more parking spaces than what's being presented? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, what you're hearing is that the one that came to us first was 15 parking spaces. We didn't meet. They held a meeting. They told them to go back and redo the parking because they didn't have access, was denied on Briar Lane as a town road.
Right.
Okay, so they sent the applicant back to review the parking and to take out the curb cuts on Briar Lane.
Right.
They submitted a new plan, which I asked Rebecca to get. It was sent to us and it had no accesses, no access to Briar Lane, and parking reduced to 8 parking spaces. That plan, which was submitted to us as a planning board, we have no authority to weigh in at 8. If they change that, now I can certainly give the Board of Appeals a call. If they change that, they should kick it back to us if it's over 10 to review again. But with this primary use situation rearing its head, it's a totally new
Parking spaces
list.
come in second.
Yeah, the parking is second now. The primary use is first.
Okay.
And what I'm not getting in, I didn't mean for the board to get involved with the Board of Appeals hearing on the primary use aspect. I'm trying to get with town council to find out where they're going on this primary use situation, because it may need to be looked at by the planning board.
Okay.
Parking is a completely different situation.
What would trigger it needing to be looked at by the planning board other than the parking?
Nothing. It does not get referred to us. The only reason why it even gets to us, David, is significant impact of 10 parking spaces or more.
So we don't have any authority over, for example, if there are basically 4 uses of this new space, as I count them, which can put a lot of parking stress, different than the spaces they have, on adjoining businesses. We have nothing to say about any of that.
No.
Traffic flow.
No.
dangerous intersection, nothing.
No. No.
Jerry,
Yes.
5.4.13, intensity use of application to one or more allowed principal use and principal on a building and lot. That's the bylaw they're struggling with? Because that's what they didn't apply for.
I'm not.
More than one.
I'm not sure, David, at this point, because this is not part of the discussion. I've got to find out what it is, chapter and verse, that they're talking about, and town council is talking about, and bringing up to the appeals board. It's not the case at all. It's the zoning bylaw issue that we may have to look at.
Yeah, because we don't have that. It's in District C and C2, but other than that, it doesn't appear that they have the ability to even grant more than one principal use.
That's exactly what town council is saying. What we've had in the past is what is a primary use? Is it a use by right or is it a use by special permit?
Why don't we
Well,
just look at sick day? Come on, let's be honest.
I know. I look at 6 Day across the street. It's got an apartment upstairs.
Two.
A single apartment though, and then it's got retail trade below. So therefore, if town council is saying that
That shouldn't have been allowed.
just primary uses by special permit, then I can see it. If it's primary uses and you've got a single family and you've got a retail and that's two primary uses, one's by right and one's by special permit, and that's, why didn't we do it? Why didn't they do it across the street?
Because the board doesn't know what they're doing, as I've said before.
But with town council chiming in and making this kind of decision, it flies to Alfred's point in the face of the way we have been looking at permits.
Yeah, so it's a learning opportunity.
It's absolute learning opportunity.
5.4.1.3 clearly states that two uses are only allowed in the commercial and C2 and not allowed to be expanded at all in the central district. That's very clear.
Right.
And that's probably what town council is going to address.
Right.
And that's what we want to look at and say, okay, if that's what and if the Board of Appeals is going to do that, does the planning board, that's going to be
Have to weigh in.
information, does the planning board, based on what has happened to Alfred's point in the past, which is
Make a change.
which is contrary, do we need to clean something up or do we need to leave it? That's going to be a decision.
Well, it's there again. It's already been written in the bylaw. The board just hasn't been interpreting it in the right way, or even looking at that part of the bylaw.
Multiple boards.
Sounds to me like a January discussion.
I'm not sure we've even looked at it, David.
I just read it.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but David, we both know you got to read town council's opinion and go with that.
Yeah. All right. No, I do want to see what town council has to say, but
that's all I'm going for. But David,
yep, there you go.
If you read 6 point whatever it is, David, and you read the significant, that's the threshold. Other than that,
oh yeah,
sort of David Mead, sort of like the marijuana shop going at the old CCB&T building on the corner of Route 6 and Main Street. That had less than 10 parking spaces. That you had traffic coming in off the traffic light onto Main Street. You had egress that was already there. We had no input on that because it was less than 10 parking spaces and no right to even jump into that.
And I think people do that for that reason.
Yes.
Yes.
Especially since the one in South Wellesley had, what, 20 something?
Right.
40.
Is that what it was? It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and they're going to have a gate attendant who's going to be there all the time.
Remember that?
Yeah, remember that little German guy said he was going to promise he was going to be there till October.
And if he didn't have any employees, it was going to be him.
It was good. Yep, you remember that too. We got him on tape.
Well, it's in the Board of Appeals. All right, moving on.
Minutes.
No, climate control letter.
Oh, climate control.
Oh, yeah, that, climate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So let me, Jerry, could I do a little intro to this?
Yes.
So you may recall at the last meeting, it's in the minutes, we had the board did not have an appetite for a very specific project that I proposed, and that's fine. And we had a long discussion about what a big complex problem dealing with climate change is. The whole town should be involved in it, and for sure led by the select board. And so I volunteered, and it was agreed that I would draft a letter to go to the select board and the town administrator, to basically raise this issue to that level within the town to try to do a more coordinated approach to climate change, because the planning board felt that it was too much, which I get in terms of knowledge, et cetera, for the planning board alone to take on. So I drafted this in that spirit as simply a request to go from us to the select board and town administrator to basically raise the issue of climate action to a higher level, following up on the climate emergency that the town passed nearly unanimously, where this is the will of the voters, to encourage the select board and town administrator to come up with a way to do more and be more coordinated, and ideally do it faster. And you can probably get the gist of that from what you read.
Okay, members who have any questions on this draft to be sent?
I move we send it.
Any second?
I second.
Discussion?
There's some editing details that, are we saying we're going to send it as is?
Yeah, that's why I'm asking for
Okay.
input.
I would like to see the request made in the beginning. It's a very dense document, and I think we want their attention. That's one thing. I think it wouldn't hurt to supply the climate emergency declaration as an attachment, so they don't have to go looking for it. And maybe in special type to show what the planning board's mission is, so they understand where we're coming from. And other than that, I had a couple of minor things, wording.
Okay, anyone else? I've got the adaptation, David.
Yeah.
Is reacting to climate change through activities such as raising roads, revising zoning bylaws, building codes.
Yeah, yeah.
Drainage requirements, restricting renovations and building in new flooded areas.
Yeah, those are just definitional and example with examples of adaptation and mitigation are the two ways that people think about dealing with climate change. And I made a point to say that we're not advocating for them specifically. They're just to give some information about the kinds of things that are considered to be done.
All right, well, I see that my contention is that addition of what you just said should be in there. I mean, when I first read that, it appeared that we're advocating revising zoning bylaws, building codes, which we have nothing to do with, increasing drainage requirements, we have nothing to do with. New flood areas, the flood zone came out of the Conservation Committee, not the Planning Board. We got it as a zoning bylaw, but they wrote it. And general retreat from sea levels. I think adaptation may include the following if necessary, or something of that effect. I would feel a little bit better.
Well, let me work on that, because what I meant to say, not that the board was proposing anything, the planning board, that these are the things that are worth looking at by.
And for those individuals responsible.
Right.
Would you have a particular problem, David, working with Olga, since she's got a number of questions on it, together and coming up with something at the next meeting?
Sure.
Olga, you okay with that?
I'd rather not, but I will. Nothing personal, Olga, but I will.
Well, it's either that, David, and we're gonna sit here tonight, or
No, it's fine. I'll
or
work with Olga.
she's gonna rewrite what she wants to write. We're gonna both, you're gonna have to put it together somehow. So
That's fine.
I'm just thinking if at least the two of you can get together and see if you can come up with something before
We
the
will,
board does.
we will work on it and get back to you for the next meeting.
Excellent. Everybody else okay with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
I just a small
Bonnie?
suggestion. Yeah,
Yep.
thank you. I think putting the proposal on top succinctly, even in the form of a motion, might be helpful.
Yeah, well, I think that's where Olga was going, so I think the two of them can work it
Yeah,
out.
I think so.
Right.
Okay.
Work with us, Bonnie?
Yeah. No, I think we don't need to write by committee. It's just.
No,
yeah.
that's not, but Olga and I will work on it.
Okay. Minutes of December 2nd. Anybody have any changes or deletions?
I was quoted as saying that monitoring needs to be done more regularly. This is about AADUs by the Board of Health or HUD. And I did not mean HUD. I think I meant the building department.
Well, it's not really what.
I agree with that comment. I don't want the feds in here.
No, I recall she said they were the only ones who did come, David.
Well, they were the only ones who did, yeah.
I
Maybe that was
mentioned
it.
it because I had Section 8 tenants, and that was a requirement. So I did get an inspection annually by HUD, but I'm not saying that the town should be doing it like HUD.
Yeah.
Understood?
Oh.
Becca, do you see where that change can be made, or are you?
Near the bottom of the first page.
That's fine. I can change it, but that's what she said. So I
Right.
was
The
just
minutes
quoting
reflect
what she
what's said,
said.
not what's meant.
That's the problem, Olga, is that sometimes we want to change what we said.
But we can't.
No, yes, you can. So Rebecca, you can take out anything that was said because you're just summarizing.
So you
So
can
you
take
can-
it out.
You can
and
take
not
it all
change
out.
You can take it out, but not change. You can take it out, HUD out, but not change the rest of it, because the intent up to the words HUD was exactly what you wanted to say, what you
Right.
said.
Right.
Yeah.
I can change that. Yep.
It's the problem with the detail.
Yes.
Because I wanted to change I do, and that cost a lot of money.
Because it wasn't minutes.
Oh, it wasn't minutes, yeah, but it was recorded.
Different when it's minutes.
Okay. Any other changes, deletions?
I'm going to make a motion to accept them as amended.
I
Okay.
accept.
Any second?
Second.
Who seconded?
Second.
David.
David. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
we got to set our next meeting.
Next meeting
Well,
is 6th. Is that okay? 6th of
January.
January 6th.
Right.
January
That's
6th.
what we said last time.
Okay, and we'll have the AADU and ADU consensus, and then if we get a consensus, start working on it. Think about merging those two. Anything else? Oh, well, climate letter. Discussion.
Jerry,
Yes, David.
I do have that housekeeping issue I'd like to address, but maybe we can kick that back to the 6th.
I can't do it, David, because it's not in the agenda.
No, but we
Okay.
had that, okay, so can we put that housekeeping issue on the 6th?
And what is it?
It's regarding accessory dwellings.
Oh, a definite, definition?
Yes.
Okay.
Use regulations. Use regulations
yeah,
and
okay.
definitions.
Yeah, okay. Clarify
Well, it's
accessory,
either that or I'm gonna go pull a ZBA permit on that. So put it on for the 6th. Otherwise, I'll cause trouble.
gonna,
Which
David,
one do
if
you
you
want?
let me, I'm gonna, David,
Okay.
if you let me.
No, let him cause the trouble.
I can cause trouble tomorrow, you know.
I know you can. Rebecca, it's gonna
You need
be
the application money?
clarification of accessory dwelling in the use table,
Nope.
right? Is it
Yeah.
accessory dwelling, David?
No, it's just, yes, just accessory dwelling.
That's what I'm saying.
Definitions.
It's clarification.
Lack
in the-
thereof.
No, I don't
And
need
it
to go
goes
there.
to the use regulations, affordable dwelling, and it goes into the fact that there's no definition for that in the definitions.
There's no definition of accessory dwelling.
And there are no definitions of affordable dwelling.
And what's in the use table, David?
That's what we allow. So I can go down and pull a permit for that, and they have to grant it to me with no regulations.
So there's there's affordable dwelling.
There's affordable accessory dwelling in the use table. There's also accessory dwelling. Because there's no definition for accessory dwelling, I can go down and apply for that permit, and they have no guidelines to go by other than their goodwill.
I get
So
it.
I can get, however I can snake charm the board, I can get what I
Get
want.
it. I
So
get
what
it.
you want is a definition.
No.
Yes.
What I want David to do is to just write a paragraph explaining just what you just said to me to
Okay.
Rebecca, so I can get it clearly when we put out the agenda.
All right. Rebecca, I'll see you tomorrow, right?
Yeah, yep, I'll text you when
Yeah.
I get to, we're doing a surprise parade for Courtney, so
Oh, cool.
I'll be down there at like 10:45, so I'll text you when I get
Cool.
down there.
Did you really tell him
Sweet.
that?
No, you didn't just say surprise on,
No.
I,
Did you
I
really
did, but
tell
she's
him?
not gonna listen.
Did you really tell him parade?
Oh, I'm going to a parade?
Rebecca,
Yeah, you should, my car's gonna be all decked out, it'll be fun.
I have a
You
feeling
can ride your
something else is too.
motorcycle, David.
Oh, the bike's
Okay.
got a flat tire. I'm bummed.
Oh,
With that, adjourned.
Bye.
Oh, wait a minute, Rebecca,
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
Will
Olga,
there be a 2021 schedule posted?
you guys have to decide on that, so I can't post a schedule until you've decided. I can send you a tentative schedule, if that works for you.
Yeah,
Does
sure.
that need to be on the agenda or?
Yeah, let's put it on the agenda.
Okay, you can put it on your January 6th agenda for the upcoming 2021 schedule.
perfect.
is that,
Cool.
does that go on the,
Yes, once you've decided, I will put it up for you
okay. So put it on the agenda,
for January 6th.
but I don't see why it's not gonna remain the first and third Wednesday of every month.
Right.
Yeah, but
The way it would is if it
agree to
interferes
that,
with other
right?
meetings. Yeah,
But
I
we'll-
mean, that's what your schedule is.
Yeah,
but
and then we can
sometimes-
change it accordingly, but yeah, we'll put it on the agenda.
Okay,
All
I
right.
mean, I can put a tentative schedule on the website now for the first and third, and then if it changes, I can change that. I can
Why don't we
update
do
it.
that?
I think that would-
Okay, I can do that.
Great.
Okay, also, please all remember that you've got to get down and sign the release of covenant. And Alfred and David find Rebecca tomorrow and get the additional signatures for the registry. Because he
Cool.
will not be able to record that unless we get those things to the registry. Okay?
All right.
If not,
Excellent.
happy holidays, everybody, and stay safe.
Thank you, and to you.
Good
All right,
holiday.
you.
Night.
Bye,
Beth,
everyone.
get better.
Bye.
Thank
Beth,
you.
get better.
Thank you.